Hey, I've been putting off recording this, but I might as well do it. And that is my thoughts after finishing Mystic River by Dennis Lehane. I had read Shutter Island with the book club many years ago when we first got started and didn't really love that one. I wasn't a huge fan of the twist, and particularly, I didn't love the writing style. It was one I did on audio because I was frankly doing too much of my book reading on audio. It was like I had a little kid underfoot and it was hard to find time to sit down and read. It was a dark time in my reading life where I really was having trouble finding time for physical reading. Anyway, so I didn't have the best time with that one. And then so I was a little bit mixed when this one got picked for the club. And again, no one's fault. It's a very well received book. First off, I realized that I thought that this one, the premise that I thought this one had was, I guess, The Rainmaker, or like that movie, because I knew this one had been turned into a movie. So it's always starting out with being like, I don't think this is the story I thought this was. And for full transparency, I started reading this one right at the beginning of August. It was super hot. I've talked a lot about my reading slump and just how, I don't know, I've been in the mood for like popcorn reads at like, if, at best. Like everything I want to read is just like super light and fluffy. Not necessarily always like light in terms of tone, but just I just haven't felt like digging into anything really deep and heavy. And so this book just was hitting wrong, and I was pushing through it, and I did actually finish it. Honestly, I technically read it, but I read it like hate reading it, and it was just a bad experience, and then I held off reading it. However, the weather actually got a lot colder. There's been a lot of smoke here, and so the weather got cold. Sorry, this is like a weather report, not a book review. But the short is that it actually got a lot colder, and so it's kind of felt more like fall. It's obviously got warmer again as I'm wearing this, but the last week it just kind of felt like fog. It was really overcast and rainy, and I decided to actually revisit the book, and thankfully I did because I had a much better time with it. So I guess I'm struggling with the fact, and I don't think there's a really clear answer. It's something I've always struggled with book clubs is, you agree to read a book and everyone kind of picks a book, and trying to perfectly plan it to fit with like a certain mood and tone and what you're in the mood for. Like I recognize I don't always need to read in the first week of the month or whatnot, but I do struggle with just like not being in the mood for the thing that we're reading right then. And kind of this book was very much a testament to the fact that when I went back and read it with like a different state of mind, a different temperature outside, like I do think like, if this had been like the September book, it would have worked a lot better because, once it kind of had that serious tone, it was more up my alley. So anyway, once I went back, yeah, had a generally better time with it. Still wasn't a 4 or 5 star read for me, but appreciated it quite a bit more. My biggest thing is like in terms of a plot and premise, like you have this like earth shattering coming of age. I want to say coming of age. It's like it's basically like this earth shattering childhood experience. So very much like breaking the innocence, really for all the kids, especially for what's his face? I just looked at the name so I could remember it. But like you have him where like he's just devastated from his childhood atrocity, and then you follow them like fast forward and you have like the murder in the present day and get to see how their lives are reflected. So I think in terms of like serious subject matter, very much like seeing how like friendships and like people and their lives evolve over time, like really heavy topics to deal with. My challenge with the book was the fact that it's written in a style that I find really held me back from loving it as much as I want to. I do find there's kind of a certain style when it comes, especially to like third person narration, where it can just be very much like keeping the reader at a distance, or specifically not even keeping the reader at a distance, but describing, like having someone very clearly narrate what's happening to the characters, how they're feeling, what is like, and then this happened and this happened, and so forth. And I felt there was too much of that in this book. But I say like it basically reminded me of the style of what Stephen King does in most of his stories, where you have kind of very much this like narrator, like kind of omnipotently or whatever, like kind of looking over these characters, and it's just not my favorite style. It like the book felt, I don't know. It definitely felt like a certain style, a certain time period, and a certain audience it's written for that just wasn't me or wasn't the type of book that I love. So it's just kind of a shame where like objectively this was not like a bad book. Like I can't fault, like I don't even remember who would have never like like it's I can see everyone's loving this book. I think when I kind of peeked into some of the early thoughts on the Discord, and like I think it's a very good book, and I'm kind of just frustrated that it's like it's a very good book, but it's not really to my taste, and I feel like I say that way too much. So anyway, did enjoy it a lot more. Some Just like, yeah, like I really enjoyed kind of that. I guess what worked really well is like the character. I appreciate the character study it was doing. I just wish, like, I really didn't feel like we as a character got into the character. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Yeah, maybe it is that feeling kept at a distance where, um, yeah, it just kind of felt like the author wrote some horrible things to happen to the characters. And then, I don't know. I guess I lacked the connection. And it kind of, I guess it did make me feel like the author, I guess I felt like it was so clinical in the way that it was written at times that it just felt like it was written from an author who wanted to write about tragedy but never experienced tragedy themselves. And maybe I'm completely off base, and it's not like every author needs to experience the thing that they're writing about. Because definitely the skill of a good author is to be able to, make you feel that way without having to write something semi-autobiographical, semi-autobiographical. Oh my goodness, I'm just tired. I need more coffee. Anyway, but doing something that doesn't necessarily reflect their own life. But yeah, looking at this one, I think that's kind of where I got stuck. Is that it felt like really deep emotional topics, and the way it was presented felt very, I don't know, kind of sanitized and passive. I don't know. I think I would have loved the story to, yeah, mostly just, I think if this story had been in someone else's hand, I think I would have connected with it more. I just don't think this author writes in a way that works with my brain. And I think that my brain's the problem, not the book. All right, that's what I'm going with. All right, bye.